Welcome to Sustainable Stock, Reviving Legacy Genetics, the podcast that delves into the power of traditional cattle genetics and the ranchers bringing them back. We're returning to the tried and true practices that prioritize what truly works on the ranch. Each episode, we'll talk to ranchers who are rediscovering the methods that built strong, resilient, efficient, and fertile herds in the 1960s and 70s. These breeders are blending the best of the past with practical solutions for today's ranching world. Whether you're passionate about the future of ranching or curious about heritage genetics, this podcast is for you. Presented by Boss Sires. Tune in as we reconnect with the roots of the herd. Here's your host, Patrick Powers.
Hi, and welcome back to Sustainable Stock. In this episode, we're heading to South Dakota to visit with Charlie Totton and his daughter Courtney of Totton Angus Ranch. For nearly 3 decades, the Totton family has been quietly raising the kind of cattle that last. Moderate framed, fertile, low maintenance cows that thrive on grass and calve unassisted. No fluff, no feedlot crutches, just common sense cattle raised in tough country. Charlie's been building this herd since the 90s, and today Courtney plays a big role in keeping the vision moving forward, balancing boots on the ground ranch work with a sharp eye for genetics, grazing, and customer relationships. We'll talk about mob grazing, functional cattle, their annual redneck auction, and how this father-daughter team is proving that sustainability isn't a buzzword, it's a breeding plan. Let's get into it. Charlie, Courtney, are y'all with me?
Yep.
All right. Well, guys, I like to give everybody an opportunity to introduce themselves because I'm not very good at it. So if each of y'all want to take a turn to sound off, I'd love to hear who you are, about your operation, and please don't make the common mistake of losing yourself in the cattle.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm Courtney, and my husband and I moved back to the operation in 2019. We have 2 kids, a boy and a girl, and they're 3 and 5, and they keep us very busy. And I'm not sure what else you want to know about me, but
Whatever you want to give.
I'm Charlie. We've been at this for about 30 years. I got 6 grandkids, three kids of my own, and we're still having fun.
All right. Well, before we get too deep, if you don't mind, Miss Courtney, I've got to ask because it is becoming more common, children being drawn back to the ranch. What brought you back? Was there a single event? Was it you saw Dad need some help? You saw hope, some promise?
well, I got back from Iraq. I just retired from the military, but I did.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you. With the National Guard. So I did a medevac mission in Iraq for a year, and I got home and I was working a lot and not very satisfied. So my husband told me, I don't care what you do, you just need to quit your job. And then the neighbor's land came up for sale back home, and we just decided that maybe it was time. And it all worked out. Jonathan was able to transfer with his career close to here. So he has a full-time, he calls it his day job. He works for the government 4 days a week and then helps us
I have
on
one of those.
nights and weekends. Yep.
Well, that's great. Well, did you know immediately that you wanted to jump back into cattle, or did you have other visions?
No, I think the cattle is just what we know. I mean, I got chickens and I have a garden but nothing that makes any money.
Absolutely. Well, Mr. Charlie, it's your turn. What drew you to cattle? I know that multiple generations have taken their part in it, but what made it your passion?
I don't know. I think I was born with it. I've owned cattle since I was 12 or 13 years old. And I know I went to my first bull sale. I was still in high school. First bull I bought. And I've just been hooked ever since.
That's wonderful. Well, so y'all are located in South Dakota, and I've got a note saying right near the Missouri River breaks. Is that right? Could y'all kind of describe the place in which y'all raise your cattle and have created y'all's life?
So we're just like 3 miles off the river, and the river breaks are steep canyons. And so we have a lot of different soil types. Like up on top, we'll run twice as many cows, those river breaks. The river breaks are full of cedar trees and black knobs that don't grow nothing. And they're a real challenge operating in the most, and probably 90% of our land is in the river breaks.
It's hard to fence. It's hard to gather cattle. It takes a special kind of cow to fit this environment and be able to work with, because if you had some wild cattle, you'd never get them gathered.
And we even have slide areas where this whole steep hillsides are trying to slide into the river. We'll have big
Oh, wow.
chunks of earth move.
Yep.
So I imagine it puts a lot of the work back on the cattle.
Yep.
Well, just looking at my notes whenever I was preparing for this episode, Mr. Charlie, you and your wife Tanya started in the 90s.
Yes.
What was the state of cattle then? What set you apart and made you go a different direction?
Well, okay, so we better back up. We started in the 80s.
Oh, okay. I was wrong.
Yeah, we started in the 80s when the farm crisis, the 70s inflation was so high and everybody spent too much money, and then everybody went broke in the 80s, and then we was trying to get started right in the middle of the farm crisis.
Okay.
And we didn't have nothing to inherit, so we kind of started from scratch. And when the banks wouldn't loan us money back then, they was all running scared. And so we had to do everything kind of the hard way for a long time.
Okay. Well, your cattle are obviously built for tough country, no grain and no hand holding. And it sounds like a lot of that moved forward with y'all's world y'all built your cattle within. It was a time of tough environment, of tough economical situations and environment. How do you feel that those have benefited you today?
Well, I think that the necessity to have efficient cattle to get the biggest bang for your buck has definitely helped every year, no matter what the markets are.
But like we're in a drought right now, and they're gonna have to. There's gonna be some slim pickings this winter. And if we had to run the mill cattle, they'd look tough when spring come.
Okay. Well, could y'all walk us through what it takes to stay on your ranch?
Well, you have to get bred every year. That's the first, is if you come up open, you get sold. We also have somewhat of the luxury of having a commercial herd, so we can cull even harder. So even if you get bred and you have poor disposition, or maybe you're not the best mother, maybe you had a calf with a lower weaning weight, any undesirable udders, which we're pretty strict on. We can send those to our commercial herd and then terminal cross them with Hereford bulls. So, do you have anything to add?
It's mostly we call for fertility, but it don't matter if they got bad feet, bad disposition, whatever. If they're poor mothers, they go down the road. We don't have time. Just two of us. We don't have time to mess with problems.
I imagine not. So, to go a little further on that, it is just the two of y'all with this operation.
Yes.
Yep.
So y'all have to build an operation in cattle that can fit y'all's available ability to work.
Yep.
So with that same statement, that would lead me to believe that y'all have rejected a lot of these high input models.
Yes, we have. I started out. We was kind of chasing calvings, heifer bulls, whatever you want to call them. And what I found that mature weight and birth weight have a relationship. So by starting out chasing calvings, we wound up with moderate frame cattle kind of by accident, sort of. But we kind of knew all along we wanted them, but we kind of hid behind the calvings, so we didn't have to fess up in the beginning that we was chasing moderate frame cattle.
I like that. Could you go a little further on that? What were the benefits found when you got into those more moderate frame cattle? You spoke on what the forced shift was and how you ended up there. What were the benefits found that made you stay within that?
But we just flat have a lot less trouble. If you're not pushing the extremes, you don't have calving troubles. You don't have as many health problems. They don't take as much feed. Just everything is kind of better. They get bred easier.
And we, for many years, ran with another person, and they, kind of had every color and kind, size cattle. And so we saw it was pretty easy to see some pretty drastic differences between, who could maintain body condition, calving problems. We got a lot of experience that we didn't really want, but we'll take it, I guess.
School of hard knocks, huh?
But like back when I started with nothing, I worked for a lot of different ranchers to get to where I'm at. We worked with people that had pure Herefords. We had worked with a Simmental guy for a while. We worked this guy where we're at now. There was Galvey and all kinds of crosses between Hereford, Angus, and Galvey. And yeah, we pulled a lot of calves that weren't ours.
And prolapses and
and
milking out udders that are just too large.
Udders and them first 10 years we was on this place, we probably calved out 200 heifers a year with the guy I was working with at the time.
No, it's just heifers, and then there's, a lot of mature cattle.
Okay, well, along those same lines, you notated that y'all have a commercial herd. Is that where you found your start? Was it seed stock from the very beginning, or was it?
Absolutely. We started with commercial cattle. And it's in the 90s when we started buying registered cattle. But in the 80s, we started with commercial cattle. And I practiced on those commercial cattle, kind of keeping birth weight records and different things. And by the time I got to the registered cattle, I had a lot of things figured out.
So y'all spoke on the convenience of your seed stock production, keeping it as pure as possible because you can just feed into your terminal commercial herd, correct?
Yep.
So I feel like that would empower many producers like yourselves to truly get the best of your seed stock and be able to provide the best of the best to the market with that ability. And you're not afraid to cull because there's still the ability to profit within that. Mr. Charlie, you spoke on what y'all were chasing. Did y'all ever find any prominence in EPDs? Did y'all find value there?
I was kind of afraid he was going to ask that question.
I had to.
I have a different take than most people. EPDs aren't the problem. The problem is this bigger is better syndrome that gets people in trouble. But the actual EPDs, if you can deal with moderate to low EPDs, they're not the problem. And like say, we use them both directions. Like if I see a bull with a plus 35 milk and 150 yearling EPD, I know he's not going to work in my herd. So even if you use the EPDs to stay away from cattle, they have a purpose.
Yes, sir. Well, Miss Courtney, I was wondering if you could pick up there. I've got a note here that says you're the data queen over there.
Yeah. I think it's a very helpful guide. Like I really like the dollar EN value through the American Angus Association, which is feed efficiency conversion. So it should tell you how efficient your cattle are. I know obviously that's a good thing, is to have efficient cattle, be able to maintain or gain on moderate or poor forage. And I would say the majority of our herd, well, I think at our bull sale, like a third of the bulls that we sold were in the top 1%, and another third were in the top 5%.
Well, it's good that you notated the capability of forage within that. I think that's been perverted by the use of grain, and a lot of people have viewed it as, how well do my cattle convert grain?
Yeah.
You're still properly using it.
Yep.
But I got a lot of theories on EPDs, but we're almost a closed herd. We take in a little outside semen, but most of it's our own. Well, if the Angus Association don't have some bull in common compared to, how do they really come up with these numbers anyways? So I'm a skeptic on how they arrive at EPDs, because if you was in the mainstream and everybody's using the famous bulls and sharing them around, I can see where you could come up with numbers. But in a closed herd or semi-closed herd, I don't really see how EPDs really have that much standing. But
I'm still excited to see where it's going. Like the Angus Association coming out with the functional longevity EPD. It was interesting to see how our herd stood up to others. And then last year they also came out with a teat and udder EPD, which we were always curious about. And a lot of that goes back to proper reporting. So your data is only as good as what is reported, and that can be
convoluted,
yeah,
or misconstrued.
It's not extremely objective. It's kind of subjective.
But you opened a can of worms here, man. I got a lot of rants, but
even sir, I have nothing but time to talk about it.
So even like on the docility EPD, they're not collecting the data right. So you can, when you go to fill out, it says docile, nervous, restless, really restless, whatever. If you got a bull that's above average, you can't mark him without calling the rest of your cattle wild. So I mean, they should have started at 0 and went -1 or +1, and then when you had a really gentle bull, you could show it. But right now, there's no way to turn in records on a really gentle one unless you call the rest of your cattle extremely wild. So I don't see how the docility EPD is ever going to mean anything if the reporting is wrong.
Well, devil's advocate, that might be a marketing strategy. If the majorities aren't, why would they give you the single point to shine?
Yeah.
So you're angry because you can't stand out as being docile. Yeah. And they've managed to hide that within the majority.
That's what it looks to me like. But I'm
not educated, so.
Yeah. But then the functional longevity, they started out with a good premise. The functional means she has to have a calf every year and get old at the same time. But then they think 6 years old is an old cow. After that, they kind of quit taking records from her. Well, I mean, that's just kind of midlife crisis time. That's not longevity, people. So, I mean, they start out with the right ID, but they just can't help themselves. But,
yeah.
Screw it up.
Well, to sidetrack you there, I like to ask everybody I have on, what's your record? What's your best point of longevity? Who's your oldest girl?
Well, that's easy.
Well, I mean, 18 years old is a record cow, but
like we don't have a lot of cattle die either. So I mean, we try to sell them when they have a little salvage value between 12 and 14 or 10 to 12 years old.
Absolutely.
But when you call for fertility and all these other things, it's surprising how few cows you got when they get to be 12 years old. What's left is pretty good.
Well, and then when the market's been high too, we've been a little can cull the old ones a little bit harder because they are actually very valuable. You're not getting
It's pretty easy to cull in a world like this, isn't it?
You're not giving them away.
Yeah, I've looked at my herd a lot differently in the last year.
But and then, anyways, I got just one more rant. But
do it.
So I kind of think a lot of people struggle with their cattle not having top EPDs. Man, I wear my moderate to low EPDs like a badge of honor. It tells people I'm breeding what I say I'm doing. Don't be ashamed of them. And I mean, maybe I'm not right, but that's my badge of honor, that I'm honest, because my EPDs show it.
That's the whole reason I'm talking to you today, sir.
Okay.
I like it. I spoke to y'all for a moment before the interview when I was asking y'all if you'd be willing to come on, and I think that really harkens well to the conversation we had in private about how I'm ready to challenge some of the egos I've found within cattle. And I find producers like yourself manage to put that to the side, and you're willing to talk about what the cattle have accomplished more than what you have individually. And these rants you're going on, it just solidifies that opinion within me. That You're irritated not because you haven't been noticed, but because your cattle haven't gotten the accolades they've earned.
Yeah. So back to the 18-year-old cow, she's a very large part of our herd. She had a calf on her own for 14. She had 14 calves.
14 calves.
And then we pulled her out of production for
basically a year.
A year for embryos, ET work.
Wow, she had to prove herself in the herd before she managed to go into the.
and
Sorry.
then she got to have one more calf, and then we pulled her again, or maybe she had two more calves.
No, she just had one. She missed her 15th year and calved again at 16.
And then we pulled her again and collected some more embryos, and I think we looked her up, and I think she has
23 progeny.
23, yep.
That's wild.
Yeah.
But this cow, she died with good feet, good udders, never a skinny day in her life.
Yeah, didn't limp. Yeah.
You know, when she died, she was still a good looking cow.
Well, unfortunately, this will be audio only for the listener, and they can't see the just mesmerized look in the both of y'all's eyes. Y'all are looking off in wonder and remembering this cow.
Yeah.
So it must have really meant something to y'all.
She produced a lot of good progeny, and, I don't know. Hopefully we get another cow like her.
Yeah. Well, moving on, I was wondering if y'all could tell me, I've heard a little bit about the range y'all are on. Could you tell me how y'all go about grazing it and what you found to be the most efficient and works best with your cattle?
So we do have a couple flatter pastures. And
Flatter.
Yeah. That allows us to do like the mob grazing, where we do daily moves during the month of June and July, sometimes into August. And we have hosted the grazing school that the South Dakota Grasslands Coalition puts on for a number of years. I've only attended the full school once, but I've been a part of pieces of many schools. And they've changed some stuff over the years, but the idea is that you measure and then graze and then remeasure, and then you can make changes with that data to see how much you're actually using. Well, because Dad's been doing this for, I don't know,
12 years on the grazing school.
Yeah, a long time. We don't do as much measuring. It's mostly with his very calibrated eyeballs. And, if we give them 4 acres and it looks like they got hungry, maybe we'll give them a little more the next day. Or if they didn't eat enough, maybe we'll give them a little less.
You're speaking about you're just reflecting on the fact that these aren't one-size-fits-all solutions.
Nope, always changing.
Many within regenerative ag need to accept that.
But anyways, our two things, like I say, that this grazing school, we actually take 40 head of yearling heifers out there, and these people have to make pins for these 40 head with electric fences and see how well they measured their grass.
It's like a 3-day experiment where they get to experiment with our cattle.
But take 40 head of cattle out there and get 40 head of people out there and try to get them staying in one wire electric fence. You got to have good disposition.
Yeah,
I imagine more people get shocked than cows.
Probably. But and then on our mob grazing, we've got 2 herds. We got a March calving herd and a May calving herd, and the May calving herd winds up in rough country, and the March calving herd winds up in this mob grazing. And it takes about 4,000 acres to run 200 cows and 200 bred heifers. But anyways, we only mob graze 400 acres, but we rotate different 400 acres every other year. And so it kind of sounds like just a cute little experiment if it's only 1/10 of your land. But we mob graze during the heart of the growing season, so we got the most cows condensed on the least amount of ground. So therefore, 90% of our land is grazing uninhibitedly. Growing. So even though we're only mob grazing 10%, it's having a positive effect on the whole place.
Okay. So how much rest would you say each area is getting in between grazing?
The mob grazing areas?
Well, So we're in a dry enough area that we pretty much graze pastures once a year.
Oh, really?
But we don't necessarily come back. We do a little bit of flash grazing, so they go through in the spring and try to hold back the cool season grass. But our mob grazing, it pretty much takes it all. And then in that time period of June and July and August, when we're mob grazing, there ain't much regrowth after that period.
And like you said, we mob graze, and then the next year it gets to rest for a whole year, and we do the opposite side of the pasture the next year. But we do some dormant grazing
On the rested side.
Yep. So when it's not going, eating some of
to back up just a second, you mentioned that you have two different calving seasons, two different time periods of calving. Can you walk me through that?
Okay, so the skinny answer is that when I moved home, we were able to...
The skinny answer.
we were able to expand the cow herd, and selling yearling bulls, we kind of need to calve in March. But expanding the cow herd allowed us to also have a May herd, which our goal is to sell heifers out of that herd and 2-year-old bulls. Now there's a very long answer that I'll let him give.
But the May calving herd, so we do a lot of things a little bit different there. We take the top end of our bull calves that aren't quite calvinies, and we actually use them on this 200 head, and then we resell them as 2-year-olds. But they've been used, but we trick test them, do all the vet work. And so we take the top end. We always got people complaining that I never sell the top end of my bulls. I said, fine, I'll use them first as yearlings, and then I'll sell them to as 2-year-olds. So we use our own bulls, and these cattle all run in them rough river breaks. They never hardly see the flatland up on top. And we actually got some game and fish lease, game production area. So you can kind of imagine that's the rough of the rougher.
Great for hunting, not great for chasing cattle.
And we take them down there, and they calve on their own. We check them twice a week, and then we DNA the calves to see who your daddy is, but they truly are unassisted. I mean, we go down there and check them, but there's no crowds, there's nothing.
Yeah.
And I tell people, if your neighbor has a camera in his calving barn, you probably should get one too. But ours calve on their own,
Sir, you just found a good quote for your episode. That's great.
Yeah. So they're only truly accessible for a maximum of 3 months out of the year. The rest of the year, they're miles away from any kind of facility. And then with the game fish and some tribal leases, the pasture sizes vary. And so, that makes it even harder to access them, where they might be on a couple thousand acres of rough river hills, and you might have 3 subherds. And, there was a period in the last month where we only saw half of them, and we were really wondering where the other half was.
We were short 100 head for a couple of weeks.
Yeah. We just kept going back and checking, and eventually we found them.
We finally peeked out of the trees.
Yeah. Well, before we move too far and get too serious, you're the first person I've heard reflect on the concept of used cattle, and that cracked me up.
Used cattle?
Yes, sir.
Oh, and then with the May calvers and the inaccessibility, we also realized that disposition is even more important, because when you take extremely docile cattle, and then they don't see humans
until they're 7 months old.
Yes. So, we check them twice a week when they're born, and then they might get checked once a week, or, maybe every other week from, July till December. They hardly, and then they don't see anybody on foot. And they just see us in passing on the side by side.
So what she's trying to say is that first year they come back a little wild.
Yeah.
So we
And it was crazy because we took the docile cattle and put them out there, and we ended up with a whole bunch of spooky calves.
so it's making this sort a lot harder for docility.
Yeah.
You know,
I
when
imagine
you
it
actually
is.
get away from the seed stock mentality and actually run them out like your commercial ranchers do. You know, we figured out we needed more docility than what we had.
Well, and you noted that y'all drive by them, and your cattle don't have the relationship most cattle do with y'all's pickup truck. It doesn't deliver
No.
sugar cubes.
No.
So,
And then even with mob grazing, you know, with moving a fence every day, they see us coming, they know they're getting fed, they see us walk by. I mean, we spend a lot more time with that herd, so they definitely get used to us. But then it's also great with mob grazing because then you get to, I mean, it only takes us 20 minutes. People say that, you know, oh, that sounds like a full-time job or whatever, but I mean, 20 minutes in the morning and we get them a new paddock, and then we see them the next morning and 20 minutes and give them a couple more acres. But you do see a lot more.
well, in that time investment, what do you gain? I mean, think about the relationship
Yeah.
you have with your land and your cattle. Your cattle gain because they're getting nothing but new nutrients, new growth, and they're forced to eat at that heavier rate. So you're encouraging the regrowth of better grasses. Your land gets that faster back to rest. So that 20-minute investment gains you so much on top.
And it's
But-
so interesting to see what they eat.
That's where I was going.
Like, I bet their top two things is creeping Jenny and poison ivy.
Really.
Seriously.
They'll just eat it to the ground.
I'll tell you
It's
what, I need one of
crazy.
y'all's cows over here. Y'all need to train it to eat thistle for me, and I'd be your
They eat the
best friend.
flowers.
They'll eat the little weaker Canadian thistles, but them big old musk thistles, that's a little tough.
Yeah, well, to go back just one step, guys, about how quick do these spooky cows of yours that are just coming back into contact, how long does it take for them to get back to normal and be...
It's just the calves. Our cows seem like, they start out in this other herd. It's just the calves come back a little on the...
I feel
And
that.
they get mixed with the March calves. So that's a little bit nicer because then you don't have just, 150 wild heifers. You got 150 nice tame heifers and 150 wild ones all mixed together or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had tried this winter, like walking down the bunk or checking water twice a day just so that they see you more. And but by the time we preg check, 95% of them are probably back to where they need to be, or they're in the kill pen.
Absolutely.
But I want to say another thing. When we started our mob grazing, part of the reason I started, you can improve your grasses and get more production at the same time with mob grazing. And that's kind of hard to do any other way. I mean, you can graze lightly and improve your grasses, or you can overgraze it and improve your production. But with mob grazing, you can kind of do both. You can manicure the land and get a lot of production. But so we increased our production, but instead of getting more cows, we extended our grazing period. We stayed with the 200 cows on that March calving deal, but instead of feeding them 7 months and feeding them 5, we only have to feed them 2 or 3 months now.
Okay. Well, speaking of your gain there in your relationship, what is the size cattle y'all are after? I know we keep using the term moderate frame, but to put a number to it, is there a weight where they're ready?
Well, but then it's back to, if I tell you what weight they're at, then we got to figure out what condition score they're in. But we're looking for a 1,200 pound cow and a 5 or better condition score. I mean, if we could have a 4 frame cow that weighed 12, that's what really makes us happy. We try not to get bigger than that, but in reality, our cows are from 11 to 1,300 pounds.
And there's nothing
Okay.
wrong with body condition score
we're,
5.
And we're talking kind of in a reasonable body condition, not thin.
Unfortunately, I don't know what that body condition score means, so you could tell me any number and I'd smile and nod.
Well, 5 is kind of in the middle. I mean, 5 is not fat, not skinny.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm
And we
sorry, guys. My
actually,
wife is giggling like crazy over here. Was I too honest with that? Or is that just me? Per- Sorry, my personality comes through, as y'all can tell.
yeah. And we actually weigh our cattle every single year.
See, and then
Oh, really?
so it's back to like when we talk about chasing weights, but the more important number is the percentage the calf weighs of the cow. And we shoot for 50%, but that's pretty tough. We don't hit it very often, but we want the calf to weigh
To wean.
50% of what the cow weighed. And it takes a pretty good cow to do that. And the smaller they are, the smaller cow, the better chance they have of hitting that target.
What time period are you looking at for that?
Well, I'm looking at 205 days. I mean, the standard weaning.
Okay. Well, I wonder if y'all could reflect on the traits. So we're analyzing the cow a little more in our conversation at this point. So what are the traits that really stand out to y'all? I know we've talked about what makes the cull list, but when you're walking through and a female stands out to you, what's probably the number one thing you notice?
I'd say, I mean, good udders, good disposition, but and then she's got to be built right. She's got to be that deep bodied, that wedgie shaped cow. But so like, if you're gonna go out and look for your best cow, it should be the one you never notice because she just don't ever cause problems. She raises a decent calf, not the biggest, not the smallest. Your best cow is that one that you really never notice.
Thank you for that answer. That really paints a picture. So after covering the cow, what sets a bull apart for y'all?
Oh, we look for thick, heavy muscle bulls. We like them to, and it's still back to deep bodied, thick, heavy muscle. But like when we got the privilege or the picking our own calves, I mean, the younger they start showing masculinity, the better. But, if they have a good uddered wedgie shaped cow and they start showing masculinity at a young age, that's the ones we try to follow up, see how they do.
Okay. We've talked a bunch about the cattle, but I'd like to talk about Totten Angus as a whole. What do y'all feel sets y'all apart? Is it y'all's relationship with your customer base, the relationship your cattle have with the land? If there was something you'd like to highlight, what would it be?
Well, we calve out a little over 400 head and we sell between 60 and 80 bulls. So obviously we're not everything makes it to be a bull. And I think that's how it should be. Only the top.
There's value in that as well.
Yep. We could probably do better on marketing and customer relations, but we have repeat customers that we only see and talk to once a year. And they come back every year and buy several bulls, and we don't talk to them in between, which we could. Just, we're busy and they're busy. But I think that says something when you don't have to follow up with phone calls and you don't have to have a whole bunch of guarantees. You just have to be confident in your cattle and what you're selling.
Absolutely. They'll find their way back to you. When you sell a sound product, yeah, unfortunately, it was so good, you get to use the hell out of it. And then you've only come to me when it's wore slab out. And you're there to talk about how good it was, and I think I'll have another one.
Yeah.
That's great. Did you tell your neighbor?
Yeah.
Once in a while they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just things that we do a little different. But even like we get these calves in the fall, we run them down the alley and one at a time, and we castrate half of them before we ever weigh them. We do a visual. If they look like a steer, we make them a steer. We go and I try not to even look at the ear tag, so I ain't swayed by my favorite cow or nothing. I just make a visual, and it don't take me very long. I see their front, their back, their side, and I point which gate they're going in.
And then sometimes we go back and look at the books and we're like, gee,
yeah,
I really wish he wouldn't have caught that, but I guess he didn't make the cut, so he got cut.
Darn, he had good numbers. That's an awful good steer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've talked with a couple other producers, and they say sometimes everything that walks out of your pasture doesn't need to still have a set of nuts on it.
Yep.
And it sounds like y'all have definitely adopted that yourselves.
Yeah.
Well, you've touched a little bit on your customer relationship there. What is some of the feedback y'all get? Do y'all find that people celebrate one trait over another with y'all's cattle, or they just act like they're really well rounded?
Well, I'd say that our bulls don't melt. They might look the same or better when you turn them out as when you collect them, which a lot of I shouldn't say that. Some bulls that are bought are, overfed, and then all of a sudden they go out on grass and they have to do a job, and they don't look like the same bull when they come home. And then the calving ease, that's number one comment we get from people is, I didn't know I could calve out heifers and not have to pull every other calf.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, well, and we don't even, we don't check at night very often, honestly.
We don't check unless it's storming. Our heifers run with our cows.
Yeah.
But like we had a customer try to tell us she's got a 9-year-old bull she's still using. We've only been selling ourselves for 12 years. We was in a different situation before that, selling bulls other places. But 9 years, man, that's an old bull. They usually get beat up on my place and don't live that long. But
And the funny part of that is we didn't even really want to sell that bull. We were kind of sort of gonna keep him. He ended up getting like pink eye right before the sale, and we're like, well, we don't want to put him on the sale with a bum eye. And so we sent him out back, and we're like, well, bummer, we get to keep him and use him ourselves, kind of wanted to keep him anyways. And they showed up to the sale, and they're like, where's this one? We're like, well, he's, we decided not to put him on the sale. And they're like, they insisted on seeing him, and then they insisted on buying him.
Well, if you insist, let's get the trailer.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I was wondering if y'all could talk about your sale. I noted earlier, I don't know where the term redneck auction came up, but did I make that up, or was that?
no, I made that up.
And it lives up to it.
Well, it's just kind of a homemade thing. We don't hire an auctioneer. I do it myself.
Oh,
and everybody's pretty sure where the bid is, but the auctioneer. And after they figure that out, the whole crowd starts watching, so they can tell me when I screwed up.
But for the listener, Miss Courtney is nodding her head.
Yeah, but we don't have a sale order. We ask the crowd which bull they want to see next.
Oh, wow.
And so it kills a little bit of time, but as soon as somebody gives me a number, then I tell the crowd the number, so everybody has time to look at their paperwork, see who's coming next. But yeah, we don't have a sale order. And then my two son-in-laws and maybe a neighbor, they go sort. We got them like pinned 20 head to a pin, and they go sort this bull out, so the whole crowd gets to watch him get sorted out of the pen.
And then he has
to. If there's a goofy one, it shows.
Then he has to stand in front of the crowd while the bidding.
And he has to stand, and every now and then one will blow snot at one of the son-in-laws, and
we'll stop, and we'll say, "Do you still want him?
He's not yours. If you want to quit, we'll go get you a different one." And every now and then we send one back to the pen without a bid on it.
I like that, sir. You can call it redneck, but it sounds genius. You get to see. Honestly, you pulled back the curtain and you're showing every aspect of this cow that you potentially or these cattle that you will potentially own. I really like that.
But then we do it outside. Sometimes we set up a little shade for the audience, sometimes not.
Most of the time it's too windy to
it's too windy to put up a canopy, so.
And,
that's wonderful.
And we're talking about some bench seats and some lawn chairs, and
I can just hear you now. What do y'all want to see next?
Yeah. I'd holler, give me a number.
Yeah.
Crowd has to holler me a number back, and then my son-in-laws go find the bull. And
everybody watches the show in between.
Everybody watches the show. And
that's wonderful.
If you get a wild bull, you're your own damn fault. You should have been paying attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I like that too because you don't have the online bidders that can. All right, guys, about 10:45, we need to get on here because that bull I'm thinking about is on. It might have been number 2 because somebody in the back yelled, "Bring up number 4."
Yeah.
But we tried to have an online auction, and it was kind of a failure this year's first year we tried it. We didn't really get anything sold online, but I suppose that's a bad deal when you don't have a sale order for the online people.
Yeah. But I mean, still, they're pretty much everything is sold within an hour. So, I mean, usually you log on when the sale starts, anyways. But all of this goes also back to low input, no BS. I mean, we're not paying for an auctioneer. Previous to this year, we hadn't paid for an online service. And even honestly, the online service is the same cost as the newspaper we used to advertise in. So I thought it was a better deal because it was more digital marketing as well as having the option of the online sales. It just didn't get the, honestly, even though we had the online sales, we still had, some paper bids, and we have some neighbors and friends, and we stay out of it, and they talk to the customer and do a phone bid.
But back to my redneck auction, we don't deliver either. So we make people come to the sale. Bring your trailer and come to the sale. And I mean, everybody gets a higher price than I do, but I don't deliver. I don't pay an auctioneer.
We don't keep them for another month.
We don't feed them no grain. We don't make.
All right, guys, I'm sold. When is it?
Yeah.
May, first Saturday in May.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be there with a lawn chair, hopefully.
Yeah, if you want to be comfortable, bring your own.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, and then we also serve my mom and aunts and neighbors. We serve a meal for free, and
but we don't advertise it. If you advertise it, every old guy in town would come out,
just for
fill
a
up
free
our
meal.
lawn chairs for a free meal. So we don't advertise no free lunch.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. Well, sorry, I enjoyed that portion right there, guys. Well, y'all talked about the marketing. Y'all led into the next thing best. What led y'all to Boss Sires? I mean, this is a Boss Sires podcast. I have to say it. What brought you here?
That's so. I never listened to a podcast till 6 months ago.
I don't even think it's been 6 months. It was probably March.
It was before the bull sale.
So yeah.
Anyways,
March of 2025, he learned what a podcast was.
An online radio show.
Yep.
So this lady from the extension service wanted to talk to us about our swath grazing and stuff. And so we got lined up to be on a podcast. So I thought, well, I should probably listen to one before I went on one,
Yes, sir.
And so I went to the local hardware store and found me a headset that would drown out the tractor noise, and got Courtney to put Spotify on my phone, and anyways, now I'm addicted. I've listened to like 4,000 in the last 6 months.
A lot. So he listened to like 4 years in like a month. He listened to like 4 years of the one podcast we were going to be on, and then he listened to like all of Clay Conroy's Working Cows podcast.
But I actually think, now that I think back, I think I heard of Boss Sires twice. I think, what was your original buddy's name down there, a guy in Kansas podcast?
Oh,
I seen his
Brian
name.
Alexander.
I think was Grant on Brian Alexander once too?
I don't know, sir. Don't make me lie.
Okay, I kind of think, but anyways, he was on Working Cow twice. So
Yes,
where
sir.
I went back and started over and listened to 400 of them Working Cow ones. And originally I just sent him an email telling him I thought we had a lot in common. And then about the time I listened to the second one, I'm like, I really should contact this guy. And but anyways, it was over another podcast that made me start listening to podcasts. That how I got in touch with Boss Sires.
And now you're on yet another podcast.
Now I'm on, moving up, by golly. As long as we're having fun.
Ranching Reboot is Brian Alexander's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I've heard his.
But I kind of find this kind of fun. So back when I'm seriously, it was hard up times when I was getting started. And when I bought that first piece of land out west, one of the neighbors was overheard telling another neighbor that if I made it, I should write a book, tell other people how to do it. Here I am 40 years later on a podcast, almost like writing a book.
Hey, I listen to nothing but audiobooks. I rarely read hard copy, so this is pretty dang close, sir.
But that's how bad it was. This neighbor knew there was no way I was going to make it, when I was getting started back there in the 80s.
But back to the question with Boss Sires, it's these are like-minded people, and we believe in what Boss Sires is doing, so it just made sense to partner up and possibly expand our reach. And, it may not, because we don't deliver and we don't do online sales, we may not get a whole lot of actual bull sale customers who are willing to travel here, but it might lead to some semen sales and maybe some heifer sales, or it seemed like a good opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
But, like being on this podcast, there might be neighbors not that far away who hear this podcast. It's possible even we'll get more local.
That was what I was about to reflect on, sir, is we're very big about local adaptation. And so, we would love for your genetics to make it somewhere in the world and can help feed the world if they're truly adapted and capable for that region. But we also accept that you might have a neighbor that's struggling, and they might be on year 4 and they're getting ready to call it quits because they've bought into the norm and they've bought into everything that's been sugar-coated and sold so well. And this message might fall on those ears, and y'all might be a path to profitability for them. And y'all are already locally adapted. You're fit to their region. Y'all can show that it works. That's what brings me more and more excitement with each new producer I speak with through Boss Sires is they're making it work in their backyard. I can make it work in mine. Oh, they're only this far away.
And then also, being a full-time rancher isn't necessarily the standard. I mean, I'd say most have another job. And so you need cattle that can self-sustain. And, if that helps more people stay in the cattle industry, that's great.
Absolutely. Well, to make a little bit of a shift in our conversation, guys, you spoke just for a second on your service. And I've got a couple notes that's saying y'all are pretty big on honoring service. I was wondering if y'all could speak on that and what y'all done to affect that.
So the biggest thing is probably the Black Hills Veterans March. We've been volunteering with them, I think, for 13 years. It started with me. I got roped into helping plan the event. And then, of course, I'm like, hey, family, come along. Let's have some forced family fun. And then, now we've been providing beef at a rest. So the Black Hills Veterans March is it can be a marathon, a march. It's 26.2 miles in the beautiful Black Hills. Third Saturday in September every year. It started with some local South Dakota military guys who went down to the Baton Death March and then wanted to do a similar thing to pay homage in South Dakota. And so then that's where it started. I think we're on year 22. This will be the 22nd year of the Black Hills Veterans March. And every 4 or 5 miles, there is a rest stop for the participants. And they get local organizations like VFWs, Legions, Boy Scouts, softball teams, whoever wants to volunteer to provide food and beverage to the participants, the marchers. And so we needed help. I got volunteered. I volunteered my family. And
You
then
voluntold.
Yep. Forced family fun. And of course, we can't do anything normal. Charlie wants to serve Rocky Mountain oysters.
You gotta salvage all those steers you castrated, man. You can't just take the whole hit on them.
Well, I wondered, y'all were a little bit heavy on making steers. Now it all adds up.
But that first year, we thought it was going to be a tough sell to a bunch of city people. That was the first thing we run out of was mountain oysters.
Yeah, and we fried chislic, so we cut up ribeye steaks and fry it, and then also make the Rocky Mountain oysters. And I mean, they also had the option of fruit and vegetables and peanut butter sandwiches, and we
Is that served at the sale?
Yeah, nope.
Good.
I mean, we could
make an exception if you drive far enough. But anyways, and then we basically take 3/4 of a grass-fed heifer out there. Then we serve roast beef at the finish line. We take all the muscle cuts we can get off one heifer. We've taken 150 pounds of roast beef out there.
Yep. So there's a free meal at the finish line
free meal at the finish line
for the participants and volunteers.
That's awesome.
Yep. And then we bring 5 to 10 people to help volunteer with the event. We've also participated in it many, many times. Honestly, participating is sometimes easier than the volunteering. But
well said.
I don't have the desire to do another 26 miles. At least they came out with a relay. That was great because then you could just do like 6 miles or 5 miles, have a 5-man relay for a marathon.
I don't run anywhere.
Yeah, but he doesn't either.
Run is a technical term. Like when you run a bath, how fast is that bathtub really moving?
That's a fair point, sir.
Fair point. So, I've run several marathons, but it's kind of like that bathtub. We weren't
I don't recall what comedian said it, but he says he doesn't do ups. I think it was Ralphie May. I don't do ups. I only do downs. I don't do sit-ups. I can sit down. I lay down.
And then locally, so that's a military volunteer organization. And then locally, they annually have a veterans feed in town, and we donate sometimes beef, money, services, volunteer. And
you act like you only ranch full time. It sounds like you've got quite a few full time things.
But if you want a fun read, you're gonna have to go to tottonangus.com and read a story I wrote about an old bull. There's a story on that back page or someplace about what's an old bull worth. And
are you going to tell part of it or no?
Well, I suppose we made a whole bull into...
When I was in Iraq.
We made a whole bull into jerky and beef sticks and saved Iraq.
That's awesome.
But this bull had problems, so he failed his DNA. After I'd used him 4 or 5 years.
He didn't really know who his daddy was.
He didn't know who his daddy was, and he annoyed me. So we got even with him, and we sent him to Iraq. So I've exported cattle over across the pond already.
No, you deployed.
I deployed a bull across the pond. Anyways, I tried to write a humorous story. You need to read it sometime.
There's a lot more to this story.
There's a lot to this story, and the podcast ain't long enough to tell it.
I will definitely check that out. Well, guys, we're just about at the hour mark, which is really our sweet spot. So at this point, I like to ask, is there anything y'all would feel amiss that if we didn't get to speak about it today?
I mean, I just really want to emphasize that we don't have a marketing team. It was funny working with this online auction outfit. He'd call me and he'd say, hey, I'm going to email you some stuff. And if you can forward it to your marketing team, they can work on it. And I'm like, yep, will do. It's me.
Done.
So, I mean, we focus a lot on the cattle, and there's just not that's just what we focus on. So if it doesn't look like our bull pictures are the most professional, it's because they're not. It's taken with my iPhone. We don't print a glossy catalog. If you want to come see the bulls, you're more than welcome. This is the first year we've ever tried to video every single bull, and it wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect at all.
We hung a gray tarp along a black windbreak. They thought the boogeyman had entered the corral.
Yeah, probably should have practiced it a couple times.
Probably should have let them smell So they needed to smell it.
Yeah.
But anyways, I've got to give you one more of my theories, but like I've always joked around that we should change our name to Nothing Fancy Cattle Company, because it's back to that average cow. You know, if
I
you're not
like
chasing
that.
the biggest, you're not chasing the smallest. You know, some rancher calls you up, and what's special about your bulls? Nothing. You know, then there's silence on the other end of the phone. You know, but it's truly your best cattle are just kind of average, and that's kind of a tough sell. You know, it just there's nothing special about them. They're just average, but they're the most profitable.
Fantastically average.
But
Well, a little bit of a shift there. Miss Courtney, I've got to know. I work with my family. I work with both my brothers and my father and my wife every day. And
lie.
I wouldn't trade it. I got to know, what's it like for you working with your father every day?
It's good. He you know, through the Grassland Coalition and stuff, he had the opportunity to do some mentoring. You know, he was listed as a mentor, and I do think that is something that he's pretty good at. And, you know, I've been back for 6 years now, and yeah, I'd say the kids are the real dynamic that is, a lot of stuff got to change when you bring a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old along.
Yes,
Not really.
Sometimes
The daycare language got worse. But yeah, a lot of thinking on our feet.
Well, Mr. Charlie, the same in reverse. What's it like working with your daughter every day, sir?
Well, I think he likes my husband better, but
yeah.
My dad likes my wife better.
When the last time she was pregnant and old Trump gave him 6 weeks off.
12 weeks off.
12 weeks off for paternity leave. Man, that was a good deal.
I know. It was almost worth having more kids. And because he didn't have to use it all at once. He got to take off like 2 weeks, and then he had it until the baby's first birthday to use that free 12 weeks of vacation time. We scheduled the crap out of that.
But the kid
helped 0%. Well, okay, he's a good dad.
Yeah, we took that brand new baby to Disney World.
The kid was born in June, so we was eyeing and hand, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
Well, guys, final question. Everybody gets it that comes on. In your opinion, what is the moral obligation of the cattleman to the land, the cattle, and future generations?
You should leave the land in better shape than you found it. And with our mob grazing and all of our regenerative stuff, I really think we're making an effort. And, to the cattlemen, by raising low input cattle that they can actually be profitable is the best thing we can do for the cattlemen. Yeah, you can go.
Yeah, I think my biggest is to continue our education, always continue to learn, be able to think outside the box, be able to try new ideas, and then for the future generations, sharing knowledge from the past, ideas for the future, sharing mistakes that you've made so that they don't have to be repeated, and learn from others. Just keep learning.
Well, guys, I really do appreciate y'all coming on today. And if anybody would like to learn more or get in touch with Charlie and Courtney, y'all can visit tottonangus.com. Their annual bull sale happens every spring, and their doors always open to folks looking for cattle that last. All the related links for Totten Angus will be listed in the show notes for today. If this episode hit it home, leave us a rating, send it to a friend, or just take a minute to think about cattle that you want standing in your pasture next spring. Don't forget to
ranch with purpose
and breed for the future.
Thank you for tuning in to Sustainable Stock, Reviving Legacy Genetics. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and share. Join us next time as we continue exploring the legacy and future of cattle ranching. For more information, visit us at bosssires.com. That's BOSSIRES.com. Or connect with us on Facebook. Until then, stay rooted in common sense and connected to the herd.